Welcome to PI Review. Oh man, you guys are almost there. Once you've received a PI, you're pretty much in one of the last steps to placing your first order. I'm so excited for you guys. Now remember, a PI is basically your legal contract from your supplier. It's so often overlooked for new sellers, I decided to make an entire video dedicated towards it to emphasize the importance. This is a really crucial step in the supply chain process. So I put together this quick checklist for you guys to use and make sure that you're getting exactly what you're planning to order. Hopefully you'll never have to do this, but if you were to ever try to report a manufacturer to Alibaba, this is exactly what they would use as an agreement to verify what you're saying. Now most of this is self-explanatory, but I wanted to cover a few things. So first is the number of units. Note the difference between units, sets, eaches, pieces. This can be definitely confusing. I told you guys earlier in this module where we got ripped off in the past because of the packs of 2. This is exactly where you would check for that. And you always want to be using the same terminology as the manufacturer. So for instance, if they use the terminology sets, make sure that they're including that and that they're defining what is actually in a set on the PI. And then don't forget about the lead time or the finish date. A lot of manufacturers will give you a lead time. Instead, you really want to figure out what that lead time really means and then try to push for a finish date to be included on your PA. This metric is super important for down the line because from our experience, even when we're ordering big quantities and have leverage, the manufacturers will tend to underguess the amount of time needed and will end up being weeks or even months late. Chinese manufacturers are notorious for delaying smaller orders if a larger order comes in later with a tight deadline. Over time, you can end up tracking how the manufacturers are doing and whether they're over or under their lead times with this document. And then if a manufacturer is consistently late, after the second time, we'll start imposing a late fee of maybe 1 or 2% off the invoice for each day that they're late. You bet that they're not going to be late anymore. So here's an example of a PI. You'll notice that it includes everything that I mentioned earlier, from the dimensions and weight, the photos, has the lead time, banking details, etc. The unit of measure is also in pieces and it looks like the packaging is included in the price. This is a great PI. You can also see that the company name is pretty long towards the bottom. So this might be one of those situations where you need to include the entire name again in the address field when sending the wire. You'll sometimes see the PI is only valid for a certain amount of days, which they refer to as validity. You'll see that towards the bottom next to the company stamp as well. And then, so wires. So here's a crazy story for you guys. Anthony accidentally sent $100,000 with a small typo in the beneficiary name a while back. It's super stressful. You'll have the supplier asking where the money is, and then you have to go to the bank and amend the wire. It can delay the entire process a few days at the minimum, which can mean delaying your production as well. It's a massive headache and totally unnecessary. For some reason, the beneficiary name needs to be exactly as they have it. Sometimes we've forgotten to include the CO or the LTD because there isn't enough character space and the payments won't go through. Talk to your bank and ask them how to handle it, but really wanted to stress this here to make sure you guys don't have to deal with it. And just so that you're aware, SWIFT codes are actually very similar to our routing numbers, but it's internationally recognized. And then here's my pro tip. This is hopefully going to save you guys a ton from making the same mistakes that we did. But if the beneficiary name is too long, like I just mentioned, make sure to include the entire name again, not just the remaining piece, in the address field as well. And then lastly is ordering your final samples. So during the PI review, I'll also make sure to ask for 2 final samples for the photography with packaging and everything. You can have them sent either directly to you or directly to your photographer if you prefer, especially if you have one already lined up to work with. We have these sent beforehand to have the photography completed, and that way we can start selling the item as soon as it lands in FBA. Typically, they won't charge us for those 2 extra sets, but we will pay for the shipping, which isn't a big deal. And then why 2, you might ask? Sometimes we like to have the photos with the product packaging showing with the actual product in the main image as well. That way you won't need to Photoshop it. As well as if one were to get damaged or the packaging gets damaged, it's nice to have that second one already there for you. And that's it for PI Review. Thanks so much.